On this episode, we'll discuss becoming the leader that God called you to be. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast, the show that is dedicated to inspiring leaders and empowering healthy churches. I'm your host, Kendall Connor, coming to you today from the beautiful state of North Carolina, and I'm thrilled to share with you that we have an incredible guest planned. Let me tell you all about her. Emily Cummins says that she is passionately pursuing becoming who God made her to be, and she loves partnering with other people to become who God created them to be too. Emily is the founder of BecomingMe.tv. She is an author, a speaker, podcast host, and chief of staff at Church of Hope in Ocala, Florida. Today, we're talking all about becoming the leader that God called you to be. Maybe you're leading in ministry, but you're quietly wrestling with questions like, am I really called to do this? Maybe you're navigating leadership challenges, or you're trying to communicate your vision clearly, or maybe you're just wondering, how can I lead with confidence, even when the path sometimes feels unclear? If you have ever struggled with identity, calling, or just confidence as a leader, or you're looking for some wisdom on how to grow into that leader that God has designed you to be, this episode is for you. We're going to dive into this conversation today with Emily Cummins because she's going to be sharing with us about leadership, purpose, and embracing the process of becoming. I know that it's going to be a great episode. Before we jump in, I'd like to encourage all of you listeners to hit the follow button wherever you're enjoying our show. We want to make sure that you stay in the loop as we continue to release these conversations and provide valuable resources. That's the best way to make sure that you don't miss a thing. So, hey, without further ado, let's welcome Emily Cummins. Hey there, how are you, Emily?
Hey, Kendall, I am honored to be here from the beautiful state of Florida. Hearing where you're from, it's sunny down here.
Listen, Florida has a special place in my heart because our family, we're big Disney people. We love to come down there. So at least like once a year, we make our way down there towards you.
That's amazing. I love that.
So let's see. How is the heat right now? That's what I need to know because we like to travel there in the winter.
You are wise. The heat is already climbing, and Floridians are just like, the time we're having this conversation, it's the end of May, and the humidity is rough. We had a really cold winter, and now the summer heat is already here to stay and only get hotter. So you're wise to come in the winter.
We were actually earlier this year, let's see, at some point in January, we were actually traveling down there, and I think we were there during a record winter storm, which was just crazy to navigate through, but we still had a great time.
Hey, probably record for Florida. From North Carolina, you're like, what are y'all breaking out your sweaters for? This is like
Yes,
summer weather.
you're
And
right.
no.
You're right. Well, Emily, I'm so thrilled to have you on the show today. Thank you for taking time to be with us. Something that we always ask all of our guests is, okay, we read the public bio, right? But what's something that doesn't quite make that public bio that all your friends and family would know about you?
Oh, okay. This question, there are a couple random things, but probably the biggest that somebody wouldn't know about Emily from her bio. And it's also kind of appropriately fitting with what we just talked about with where I live. So I love horses. Like I grew up loving horses, horse country, and uniquely where I live, Ocala is the actual Kendall horse capital of the world. So I think I've landed
Oh,
in the right spot.
that's awesome. I didn't know that, and I got to be honest. Maybe when I was a kid, rode horses a couple times, but that's something that's completely foreign to me. So that
Mhm.
sounds pretty awesome.
Yep, I absolutely love it. I don't ride as much as I wish I did, but
Yeah.
driving through horse country, and we have the World Equestrian Center here, so being able to go and ride
Wow.
and just watch the equestrians do their thing, I love it.
That's awesome. Very cool fact about you. No, that's awesome. So I know that you've led in various ministry roles, and now these days you're serving as chief of staff at your church. Well, my question is, what kind of sparked your passion for ministry, and now helping other people step into God, who God created them to be, right?
Yeah, so I grew up a pastor's kid, and growing up, I wanted to be a lawyer, a political speechwriter. Like, I did not want to pursue being in full-time vocational ministry. And sophomore year of college, God really got a hold of me and my heart, and he literally like told me, "Emily, I designed you for two things. One, to write, and two, to invest in ministry." And so from that point forward, I leaned fully in, believing that God he really equipped me through growing up
Yes.
as a PK, with everything that I was able to learn and experience in a way I wouldn't have otherwise. And so from that moment on, I have been all in. After college, I moved to Las Vegas, had the privilege of working and learning at Central Christian Church for a couple years on the
Yeah.
communications team, which really set a great foundation for what I am able to do now. So now back in Florida and leading our team. But it really started with not wanting to be in ministry and God saying, "Hey, I designed you on purpose for purpose to invest in the church." And I'm really glad I said yes to that.
And I imagine that there are a lot of PKs, pastors' kids, that could even be listening to this today. And I bet they have even gone through some of those same feelings that you have of, trying to, what did you say? You thought about being a lawyer. What was the other one?
A political speechwriter. Like, I mean,
Political.
I love writing and I liked politics. And so I was like, you know what? I could just be a speechwriter. And
I
now
love,
I do write
yeah.
speeches, but not politically.
Right. Well, I love hearing your heart and, kind of how God pulled you back and just said, hey, I've got something bigger for you here in the world of ministry. That's so special. And I know that our audience listening today, um, that's got to resonate with them as well. So I'm kind of curious. I know, many leaders, they struggle with self-doubt.
Mhm.
And I'm just curious. I know you speak to this a lot through your book and your ministry that you've set up with us. You've spoken on this before. Why do you think identity is such a foundational issue in leadership?
I think as humans, identity becomes a core issue topic because that's one of the things that gets attacked the most. And so I think when we are looking specifically at our leadership, our identity, it's core to how we step in and lead. 'Cause I know for me, when I really believe, like what I just said a moment ago, that God designed me on purpose,
Yes.
for purpose to be leading in this seat, I lead from a different posture. But when I start to doubt my identity, then I'm not leading from who God really made me to be. I'm leading from a place of insecurity, fear, and I'm so focused on me, I'm not able to lead those around me well. And so that's why I think, in a general sense, our identity really is attacked because it's how we get to reflect we're children of God. And so that would be the core piece there. But on a personal note, I don't know that we ever get to this place of arrival when it comes to our identity either in
Wow.
terms of, like, mastering it. So, Kendall, like, literally, I wrote a book called Becoming Me. I say the mantras. I, like, spend time with Jesus every day. I'm doing the work, but 2 months ago, I was stepping into a room of leaders that this room was bigger than anything I had stepped into before, and I
Yes.
genuinely walked into that thinking, "Oh my, I don't belong here." And I had to
Oh,
remind myself, like, "Hey, Emily, you're enough. You belong. You can do this." And so I think every time we step in and we remind ourselves of our identity and who God made us to be, then we're just going to step into another bigger room and we're going to have to remind ourselves again because we're just going to keep being attacked on that. And so in my world, I have to constantly go back to I know who I am when I know whose I am. And when I'm staying grounded and rooted in Jesus Christ and my identity in Him, I then lead from a very confident, different place. Doesn't mean I don't trip up because I do
right.
daily, as I just
Sure.
admitted. But I have to keep going back to that place. And I think that's why all of us come under that identity attack because everything flows from that.
That's so good. And that's self-doubt. I know ministry leaders that are listening to this today, self-doubt is a real thing, right? This is a struggle. This is something that we all have. Every time we show up, we stand in front of a group of people that we're trying to lead, or we stand on stage at our church. That imposter syndrome can kick in,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and having that identity, I love that you brought it back to you remembering whose you are and that God called you to something bigger than yourself. That's huge, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you mentioned your book and it's called Becoming Me, correct?
Correct. You got it.
A- and so that centers all around becoming the leader that God called you to be. Can you just walk us through a little bit of what that process has looked like for you personally?
Absolutely. So I'm an Enneagram 1. I like to refer to myself as a recovering perfectionist. As if you're familiar with the Enneagram personality test at
Yes.
all, like the 1 is the reformer. They want to set things right in the world. I want everything to be right and perfect. If you're into other, like I'm an INTJ type A, like on the disc, I'm an CD, right? And so I'm like very systems, perfection driven. And that thread was really in me growing up as well, even as a kid. I wanted my grades or swim meets, ballet routines to be
Yeah.
perfect. And so for me, in the middle of almost interestingly, around the time that I felt God's clear call of purpose to ministry, He was also shaping this word becoming in my heart. And so leading
Mm,
up to my sophomore year of college, I'm 34 now. So sophomore year of college, God really started to break loose this pursuit of perfection in my heart and my mind. At the time, the whole wrist tattoo was like a thing. A lot of people were getting wrist tattoos. I got a wrist tattoo and I got the word becoming. I had
wow.
read a book by Shauna Niequist at the time, and this one chapter in particular talked about becoming who God made you to be. And truly, that felt like an invitation from God to Emily to stop pursuing perfection, but to become who God made me to be. A couple years before then, I'd started a blog. And so I've always been a writer. It's how I process things. And so
Yeah.
from that moment on, the wrist tattoo forward, I really started writing with this worldview of becoming who God made me to be. And as I wrote, Kendall, I started to continue to understand like becoming, it's not about this destination, but it's about really embracing the journey and
Wow.
what God is doing in us here on the way to wherever we're dreaming about there.
It's good.
And so writing started the podcast at that time, and I was able to hear how people were becoming who God made them to be. And so all culminated in 2022. I published my first book, Becoming Me. And it's so much of my journey from that wrist tattoo forward of how Emily has been discovering what it means as a recovering perfectionist to become who God made you to be. And so we have a lot of funny stories in the book, a lot of practical advice, some questions to help you really think through what does becoming mean to me, to you as the reader. But it's a lot of just my trial and error journey of discovering it's not about perfection, it's about becoming.
There's so many nuggets to pull right there, right? Like there's just so much gold. What I love about it is that it does emphasize that it's a journey. And there's somebody on the other side of this podcast today that needs to hear that you may feel like be in that place where you feel like you're supposed to have arrived by now, but I don't know that there's ever a place where you fully arrived, right? You're always on that journey
Mhm.
of becoming that person that God has created you to be, and He's going to continue to grow you through every season regardless of your title or your position or any of these places. It's just this so good. I love hearing that. Okay, Emily, I'm curious. I know we've got a lot of ministry leaders
Mhm.
that are listening to this today, and I know that something that you've been able to touch on before is talking about conflict and also like
Mhm.
casting vision through times when it's just not easy. That's something that ministry leaders face all the time. There's always something that seems to pop up. There's different times. How have you learned to communicate through those moments and try to stay focused and help people to go where God is leading?
Yeah. So, I mean, communication is our everything rises and falls on that, right? And how we're connecting because it's really communication is connection. And so we're either connecting or we're not. And so how I have learned to communicate and connect with people through whether it's conflict or it's casting vision for something new and change always brings some level of conflict because
Oh
we as
yeah.
humans don't like change, even if it's good change, right? And so when it comes to leading in a professional sense, I have learned first and foremost, I need to personally be ready. And so if I'm thinking through how I need to communicate and connect either with the staff that I'm entrusted to lead or the people who are attending or are partners, they're a part of Church of Hope, I'm thinking through first, okay, how am I prepared to communicate this? How am I healthy spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically? That's a core foundation. Then in my role, I report directly to our lead pastor. And so he's setting what is God's vision for this place. And then my role as chief of staff, many listening, you might call it executive pastor, is to then carry out the how. How are we leading out that
Yes.
vision, right? And so for me, I have to make sure I have clarity, that I understand. So when I am hearing where we're headed,
Yeah.
whether it's change or communication, I'm asking lots of questions. I'm making
Yes.
sure I'm prepared, and that I'm owning whatever it is that wherever we're going, as if it was my idea. Because if I can't own it, I can't communicate it very effectively. Then when I'm unpacking that with our team, or with people, and I already confessed to you, I'm an Enneagram 1. So, type A kind of gal. So like systems queen, that is my middle name. Like I am
Love it.
Asana, systems, all of that. And so wherever we're headed, I'm identifying what's the plan for us to communicate this well. So in real time right now, we're actually guiding our staff and church through. We're launching a third service this fall. And so we
Okay.
began communicating this before Easter, and now our team and how we're recruiting and how service times are going to change and what that means for people. And so as we identified, anytime you have change, there's excitement and also like, we're changing something, right? And
Right.
so we're identifying, hey, what's
Yes.
what's the game plan and how we're communicating, connecting. And most often, I think one of the most helpful things, whether it's staff or people attending your church, that I've found to be true, and it's true in my own life. When you're not up on something, you can get down on it really fast. And so
Wow.
for us, we really want to communicate to bring people up on things because they can't be up and excited about it if they don't know about it. And
Yeah.
so rather than and the recovering perfectionist is giving all of us permission on this because I have had to learn this. You don't have to have the plan perfectly outlined to bring people up on something. And so, with this third service launch example that we're leading through at Church of Hope right now, we've been bringing people up on, hey, we're launching a third service while the plan is continuing to take shape and be developed. And as we've brought people
Wow.
up on it early, we've actually received golden feedback, Kendall. Like if we wouldn't have shared this early on, I might not have had the ideas, the feedback, things we weren't thinking of. And so I think sometimes we don't communicate in conflict or in change or in leadership because we think we have to have it all spelled out before we communicate it.
Wow.
And you don't. Yes, you need to
Right.
have a little bit before like make sure we're doing the third service or something before you launch it out
Yes.
there. But when we really know we're headed somewhere, bring people up on it so they can be up on it rather than being down on what they don't know.
Such great advice. And I feel like you said a couple of good things that are important. So not only if to put that plan into play, you have to first prepare. You have to have that idea and have those things planned out. You can't be making a decision at the very last minute if you're going to be able to do that, right?
Right.
And then also keeping people informed, letting them know something early if a change is coming, so that
Yep.
they can. And I love that you said so that they can be excited about it, so that they can have an up attitude rather than having being down on the idea.
Yep.
Uh, but that requires time, right? But you're saying by letting people know something earlier, you're actually able to get them involved and a part of the process rather than them finding out last minute and being upset about it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Exactly, exactly. And a lot of times, Kendall, when you do bring people up on something earlier on, we're able to see things that we maybe didn't see before. So I remember, I think it was last
Good.
Christmas. Yeah, last Christmas, our lead pastor sent a mass email communication to people at Church of Hope. And he said, hey, I value your insight. What do you want to hear taught from the Bible next year? And I kid you not, people's responses came in and our team was kind of like keeping a list of, okay, what topics are the
Yeah.
stickiest? The number one topic was teaching on the Holy Spirit. People were like, we don't know, like, what is the Holy Spirit?
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
help us understand this more. And so he did a whole teaching series based on people's feedback on, hey, we don't know really the Holy Spirit's role and what all this means.
Wow.
And so it was cool in that he was already really charting forward. Here's where, I'm feeling we need to go this year.
Yeah.
But bringing people up on asking them a question, our eyes were like, oh, people, that's something that they want to know about. Okay, let's go. And so when you bring people up, it doesn't, and bringing people up too, doesn't mean you have to do all the ideas that are shared, right? So you might
That's
get some
important to
feedback.
say, right?
Yeah, exactly. You might be like, "Wow, what an idea. I'm gonna stick to that," or you just being honest. Something that our staff says a ton is clear is kind and kind is clear. And so if something is shared that is just not the culture, the DNA, who God has designed you to be as a church, it's not mean to say, "Hey, Kendall, that is a great idea, and I really value you sharing that. That's not the vision for where we're headed, but I appreciate you sharing. Thank you." And that's okay. That's okay. It might feel
Right.
uncomfortable the first couple times you do that,
Yes.
but it's okay because clear is
Yeah.
kind and kind is clear.
Such good wisdom. And I love that it's allowing people. You're talking about this. There's this other side of not only are you as a leader becoming who God has created you to be, but you're also helping other people on that journey as well. I feel like the more opportunities we give for volunteers, for staff members, for church members to
Mhm.
give feedback in some kind of way, you're going to be able to start to identify, oh man, they actually have a heart for this. That person, they have some really good ideas. That's the person that we need leading this area, right? So as it kind of bringing those two things together,
Mhm.
having that process and getting farther ahead of these things and allowing other people to present feedback, there's the chance there, there's the opportunity there to actually help them become who God's created them to be in that journey.
That's
It's
right.
really good. Well, I know that you're working with staff members, you're leading volunteers, these different things. I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the big challenges that come with that, and how have you been able to overcome them?
Oh man, where do we start, right? Leading people. There are challenges leading people. I
Yes.
am a human. I can
Yes.
speak from firsthand experience. I think I've referenced the Enneagram a couple times, and before our team uses that, again, as you're listening, there are so many personality different tests out there. Use what works best for you and your team. I
Sure.
reference the Enneagram because that's what we use. But I think one of the biggest challenges is we talked about communication is connection, and so early on, leading our staff, before I was really understanding how they were wired, I would just get frustrated, like, "Why am I not getting through or connecting well?"
Yeah.
And as our team was able, like, we now know, "Oh, well, you're a 2, you receive information this way, or you're an Enneagram type this or that." It's helped give me language, and a better way to connect with them, because I know just jumping into a conversation at this point, it might totally miss them because that's not gonna connect
Yes.
well with them. And so that's a
Right.
a challenge that I identified early on. Make sure if communication is connection, well, I need to know who they are. That's one element. A huge element in leading a team, and all of us lead teams, whether you lead a staff or you're leading a volunteer team, you're leading a family, your neighbors, like we all are, you're
Right.
leading people, right? And so awareness of yourself is key. So I can
Yes.
know about you and how you connect with information, but if I'm not aware of me, I'm gonna miss it completely. And so one of the things that I've become extremely self-aware on, and I work with a coach every month, so she's always helping me identify what my blind spots are. But I can go into project mode really quickly, and in the process of doing that, I can overlook people because I'm ready to go.
Hmm.
Let's get into the project. Let's solve the
Yes.
problem, right? And so being aware of me, I now pause and I'm going to start the first moment with like, Kendall, how are you? Man, I like the remember why you started flag in the background of this video. Like that's so cool, you know? And then I can dive in. Um, but I wouldn't be able to make that connection if I wasn't first
Right.
aware of me. So, challenges, know who the people are that you're leading, know yourself, be aware of yourself. And I think those two things together and knowing, like, literally the flag that's right behind you, remember why you started. Remembering why, that it's all about people. And
Mm.
in this ministry church space, it's about introducing people to Jesus, robbing hell and populating heaven. I think all you can do is win. Like, knowing our why and how we're connecting and we're aware of ourselves, whatever challenge is in front of you, you'll be able to make it through on the other side.
So good. So many good one-liners there. Man, this is gonna. I'm taking notes over here. I've got so many good things to apply in my own church. This is great stuff. I know that. So I know technology. You mentioned some of these things. Have you've been able to integrate systems and things? How important would you say is technology and software when it comes to shepherding a congregation well and volunteers and team members? Have any of those things been helpful to you?
Oh, they're integral to what we do. So, Church of Hope's mission is to partner with people to discover in Christ we have hope. And we actually use Ministry Brands software that helps empower us to do what we're here to do, to be who God made us to be. And so, from running reports to how to best connect with people, it just really empowers
Amazing.
us to do that really well.
Oh, that's so good. And that software, being able to manage your people, I feel like is kind of a big deal, right? Because if not, are you keeping like spreadsheets and things of I mean, it's just it can be a big mess, but you got to be able to schedule your volunteers. You got to be able to keep up with
Mhm.
folks and their all the contact information and know where they are as a part of your process, right? And those are
Right.
big things for managing people.
Absolutely, because then you can best connect and see where are they on their discipleship journey. Are you stepping into a
Yes.
conversation on salvation or baptism or serving? Like, where are they? And then you can step into that conversation with an education around where they're
Yes.
at and then how to partner with them.
Yeah, that's a really big deal. No,
Mhm.
I love that. There's another question that I have for you is just, like I know that you're leading your team, you're leading the staff, and you're leading all of the volunteers at your church. And I'm just curious, what have been some of those key practices or maybe just rhythms that have helped you to stay grounded in your calling as you're doing this?
So recently, I had the opportunity to teach from First Kings 19, the story of Elijah, right after he had been on the mountain and he had that duel of
Yeah, yeah.
sorts with all the false prophets, right? And so he has this huge mountaintop experience and he sees God show up. He sees the faithfulness of God. And then a verse later, he hears about how Jezebel, the wicked queen's coming after him, and he runs afraid for his life. And it was right in that piece where, at the same time, I had been reading this in scripture. I read Deborah Fileta has a book called Soul Care. And then recovery groups use an acronym called HALT. So I bring all this together. And through Elijah's story in First Kings 19, I see he actually does something really specific. He's able to use this framework where he sees, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Halt. Hungry,
Yeah.
angry,
Yeah.
lonely, tired, right? And then in that, he lets God refresh him. And so he literally, and you can read the story for yourself, it's in First Kings 19, but he eats, he takes a nap, he sleeps,
Mm.
and then he gets up and he listens for the voice of God. And the most interesting part, Kendall, in the end of this story, when God asks him to go on this mountain to hear, and that he's going to go by, like all these huge, loud, grand gestures happen first from wind and fire, earthquake, and God's not in those big, grand
Mm.
gestures, the loud noises. It's in this small whisper, and
Wow.
that story has really reminded me, for me to be grounded, to have those systems. Okay, Emily, are you hungry? Like, are you fueling your body physically? Are you angry? Like, what emotions are bubbling up? Because our emotions are a signal, like the car
Wow.
signals on the dashboard, right? And so when we stuff them down, like at some point, they are going to bubble up and boil over. And God's not afraid of our emotions. Like, He invites us to bring them to Him. So, am I
Right.
angry? Am I lonely? Then I'm thinking through, like, am I connecting with people? We live in a time where, I mean, loneliness has literally been said it's an epidemic, right? And
Yes.
we're the
Yeah.
most connected than ever. And so am I feeling lonely? And then I need to connect. And then the last piece, and being tired. Sometimes the most spiritual thing we can do is take a nap, right? And
Come on.
so
Right.
when I do those four things, then I'm positioned to hear that whisper from God, because God is speaking. The question is,
Wow.
are we listening? And so for me, I check that framework, halt, and then I'm like, all right, God, you're speaking. What are you saying? Am I hearing you? That's my
Yeah.
framework for being healthy to lead from a healthy place.
That is such great advice. I love that. And there's I'm telling you, on the other end of this, there is a ministry leader somewhere hearing that, and it was a great check for them. I love that. A halt. Run through it one more time. Hungry, angry.
Angry, lonely, and tired.
I love that. That's
Yep.
awesome. What encouragement would you give to leaders, especially those who are just getting started in leadership? You know, they're wondering, are they called to this? Or are they really called to ministry? What encouragement would you give to them?
First, we're all called to ministry. I think a lot of times that we think ministry is like getting a paycheck from a church or a nonprofit. And like, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, the Great Commission is a call to ministry. So we're all
That's right.
called to it, whether you're a
That's
lawyer
right.
or a political speechwriter or you work for a
That's
church,
right.
right? So wherever you're at, you are called to ministry because God commissioned us to go and make disciples. So as a Christ
Mm,
follower, my goal, it's not about where I'm working, but it's that I am introducing people to Jesus.
yeah.
I happen to work in a church context, but you might not. And that's okay. You're called to ministry. So that's my first. Then if you're
It's
new
good.
into vocational ministry, like you are waking up, this is your job. I would say ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions. Um, Discover the why, learn why your church, your ministry setting does things the way that they do them. So be curious, and then be teachable, being humble and hungry and smart. I think sometimes we can go in and you might be asking the questions or be curious and you might not like the answer or how it's being done. And I've always been reminded like, if it's not illegal, it's not immoral, and it's not unbiblical, then it's a preference. And if it's being done a certain way and it's important at that church to do it that way and it's not illegal, moral, unbiblical, it's okay. Like I can have a
Yeah.
different opinion and that's okay. Sometimes I think we can get a little upside down there thinking my way is the best way and my way is
Mm,
not always the best way.
that's good.
Kendall's way might be way better than mine, right? And so being teachable, hungry, humble, smart. I think also being hungry for opportunities. So being if I was new on a church staff and I was trying to figure out what is this church ministry thing, I'd be asking questions. I'd be hungry, humble, smart, and then I would always be like, "Hey, what else can I help with?" I do think um, being able to step into any area of a church ministry is really valuable rather than just specializing in one little lane. And so even and again, I grew
Yeah.
up a pastor's kid, so I have a little bit of a vantage point of that, but I've always been curious and interested in like, oh, well, how do we do things over in this ministry? Or how do we do
Yeah.
it in the parking lot? Or like, how are we making the coffee? Or and being able to know all these different things, I think sets you up to connect better. And when you're hungry to help people, and other staff members, people see that you're for them and you're a solution maker and just show up hungry to help and to learn.
Such great wisdom. It's incredible. One of the big themes, Emily, that we have on our show is we talk about healthy churches and healthy leaders. Hearing all of this and kind of coming from your unique perspective, what would you say is one essential component of a healthy church?
Um, s uh, for us, Church of Hope, the healthiest thing is if our staff is spending time with Jesus personally, not just to prepare for something on a Sunday. And,
Wow.
if you are on a church staff, I would tell you without any sense of doubt or hesitation, if you are only spending time with God because it's a part of your quote unquote job, you are not spending
Mm,
time with God personally. You need to have
wow.
time with Him for you. And that is the healthiest way for your church to be healthy.
That is great wisdom. That's a word for today. This is awesome. Something that we do is we like to wrap up is we like to do a final five rapid fire round. Emily, are you up for the challenge as we close out today?
Bring it on, Kendall.
I love it. All right. All right. Here's number one. The first one. What is one book that you would recommend for church leaders?
Soul Care by Deborah Fileta.
And you mentioned that one, right? I've got to check out that one. I haven't seen that one.
So
That's
good. She has
awesome.
a YouVersion devotional plan too. Amazing.
All right. What is the last thing that you listen to on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you enjoy your music and podcasts?
Mm. I have a couple things on repeat, but On Time God by Woman Evolve, that
Mm,
has been a song that's just like constantly looping on Spotify.
it's a good one. That's
Mhm.
definitely a great one. What is your favorite piece of technology or software right now?
Asana. I'll be the nerd and say it.
Yeah.
I love my to-do list curated. It's great.
That's great. What about, is there a quote or some advice that has stuck with you over the years?
Choose to be you. One summer, I was in a tough season. I didn't know who I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. And without hesitation, my dad said, Emily, you know who you want to be. You just have to choose to be her. And so that has become a mantra for me, like, choose to be you.
That is so good. What is one thing that you'd like to communicate to our audience of church leaders today?
Be you. God has positioned you for such a time as this at the exact church or place of ministry, workplace that you are. So don't lean out, lean in, be you, be curious, be hungry, humble, smart. But wherever God has positioned you, that place and people needs you to show up fully who you are.
What a word for today. Emily, I know that people are going to want to connect with you more. Where can they follow you? How can they find out more and stay connected with your work?
So I love connecting on Instagram. I'm at Emily B. Cummins, and would love for you to follow, share with me in messages what resonated with you, even from this podcast episode. I would love to hear and learn from you. And then all things becomingme.tv, that website is becomingme.tv. You can find links to my book there, as well as a YouVersion devotional. And Kendall, I am in the middle of writing my second book right now, which is a fun
Wow.
process. So all of those updates will be at becomingme.tv and on Instagram.
That's incredible. Well, Emily, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today. I feel like there's just been so many great nuggets of wisdom and things that you've shared, and you've brought a lot of heart to it. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kendall. I'm honored to be here.
Well, for all of our listeners out there, be sure to check out all of these resources, and we'll link everything up in the show notes so that you can connect with Emily. And I would just tell you today, for everyone who's listening, if you are questioning your calling or just feeling that weight of leadership, just remember that you do not have to have all the answers to be who God called you to be. Becoming is a journey, not a finish line. And I've just been so encouraged to hear everything from Emily today. So I would just say, give yourself permission to grow, keep showing up, um, keep leading with courage, even when it's messy or uncertain. And I'm telling you, when you embrace who you are in Christ, I'm telling you, you don't need, you'll just lead more effectively, and you'll be able to help others to do the same. And we know that we want our churches to thrive and our communities to flourish. And I believe that's how it's going to happen. If this episode has been an encouragement to you and you've walked away with some nuggets of wisdom like I have, would you consider sharing it with a friend in ministry? And if it has been really helpful, leave us a review. We love reading those and just hearing how God is using this podcast to be helpful to ministry leaders everywhere. And so that is going to help us to keep equipping leaders just like you. And again, if you are listening on on a podcast platform today, hit that follow button. If you're watching over on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment and let us know how we're doing. We'd love to hear it. Until next time, keep leading well, and we'll see you right back here next time on Church Leadership Lab.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple-to-use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.